What's really good, y'all? It's your boy Aaron Bevins, the millennial entrepreneur. And I know I say this every episode, but this episode, I got to say it with extra emphasis. And that is I have a very special guest on today's show, somebody who's become a friend of mine. He's been a member of our community, but he's also an industry leader. I would call him somebody who a lot of people look up to. My brother, Chris Crump. How in the world are you doing today, bro?
I'm well. Doing really good, bro. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And on today's show, we're going to talk about how Chris is doing 5 figures a month on average with $0 in ad spend. And I know that sounds crazy, but he's actually doing it, and he has a really dope story. And I think that in the next few minutes, if you stay into the end, you're going to get some nuggets on how that you can implement right away that can potentially get you your deal in the next 30, 45, 60, 90 days closed and funded. So right after this intro, we're going to get right to the meat and potato. No fluff. Let's get it.
We made it, that's facts. Ay. We the greatest, that's facts. Ay. Prices raising, that's facts. Ay. That's right. But we paid it, that's facts. Ay. I did. They hate it, that's facts. Ay. Cause we changing, that's facts. Ay. We did. Can't blame them, that's facts. Ay. Cause we made it, that's facts. Ay. Cherry on top, that's a goat, yeah. Where you been, I wanna know, yeah. Greatest story ever told, yeah. Greatest story ever told, yeah. I know you wanna look up for this. Baby, let me turn you up a bit. You said you made it through hell and back. Give me the school, baby, tell me the facts. Don't be shy.
Man, I love it. So, Chris, first of all, where are you tuning out of today?
I am in North Dallas, born and raised, and been here the whole time.
I love it. For those of you who follow my content, y'all know that Chris has been on the show before, and we've highlighted a little bit about his journey. But on this show, I think I wanted to bring him on more as not only an inspiration, but also as somewhat of an instructor, because he's very well known in the space right now. Many of you see a lot of his marketing, and you see that he's, I don't know, I think the last update I saw, you put something like $250,000 or more in wholesaling assignment fees in the pockets of JV partners within a certain amount of span. Is that right?
Yeah. We I think you're talking about our Q3 stats. Our partners got paid out a little over $200,000 in assignments, and so far this year we're at 48 deals closed and funded with a little over $700,000 in assignments.
Oh my God! Crazy! Absolutely nuts! And so that's got to be emotionally fulfilling for you to a certain degree, right, Chris? Like to be able to put so much revenue in the pockets of JV partners while you hacking the system and being able to close deals without spending any money on ad spend.
Yeah.
What's that like from your perspective?
Well, for me, and I'm sure we'll dig into it, but for me, like my biggest passion is the wholesaler. I've been in the seat of new wholesalers. I know what it's like to burn the boats and convince your wife and take the leap and, not have all the answers. And so for me, I love getting paid, of course, but the emotional currency that comes with giving somebody their first deal or giving somebody the consistency that they've been striving for is, yeah, it's incredible. And they make a lot of money. I make my money on volume, and my I see it as a marathon. Hopefully, I make enough money with Aaron. I make enough money with Miles. I make enough money with, a handful of people. Maybe they make more money than me, but they invite me to the yacht party. So that's the goal there.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, you're definitely a volume business model for sure. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So and of course it's not all sunshine and rainbows. We all know anybody who professes the numbers that you do understand that you're going to earn those gray hairs on your beard 100% along the way. There's so many variables that come up that make JV deals, to a certain degree easier, but to another degree, there might be another layer of complexity to them. So before we get into it, we're going to skip the how'd you get into real estate, because if y'all want to know how Chris got into real estate, go back to the last 2 episodes I did with him. And he gives insight into that. He has a really cool story, beautiful family. I'll give his handle right now so you can go follow him, get to know him a little bit more. What I want to know, Chris, is how did you stumble on this business model? how did you stumble on the business? Well, first of all, what is your business model and how'd you stumble on it where you're able to average 5 figures or so a month with $0 in ad spend wholesaling real estate?
Yeah, so I was doing every part of the business. I started in 2019, did every part of it from A to Z. There were some parts that I really liked and some parts that I didn't want to do, and I still had to do them. But really, it was in 2022 when I did 19 deals. 11 of them were JVs, 8 of them were direct to seller, where I had done, every part of the business. And I just looked at my numbers. I was making quicker money on the JVs, making more money on direct to seller, but those were a drag, right? We know all the work that goes in direct to seller, and I was doing the whole part. I didn't want to, invite partners in, and I had already done that. So I just looked at the numbers and evaluated which way I wanted to go. And really, the thinking behind it is there's such a gap between acquisitions and dispositions. There's so much sales training. There's so many people signing up and figuring out how to put sellers under contract. And then everybody says, hey, a good deal will sell itself. That's partly true, but a lot of people don't even know who to put the deal in front of and what they're selling, right? You might have a 3-2 brick and you have no idea that the Section 8 renters are going to pay, $300 more, and you really should be putting it in front of those buyers. So I saw that gap. I saw wholesalers struggling to sell their deals. I knew that I knew how to negotiate and add leverage and tension in the buyer negotiations, and really to, strike the scarcity mindset that some buyers need in order to pull the trigger. And so I just saw a gap of knowledge that I had with my OG mentor here in Dallas, taught me a lot about how to sell a deal. And I just decided to fill that gap.
I love it. So you see a need in the marketplace and you're like, okay, I can be the one that fills that gap. I already know that I have, and this is what the biggest takeaway that I have about that, Chris, is what you did was, you not only took inventory of a need that the marketplace has, but you said, okay, this is something. You took inventory of your ideal client avatar. Yeah. So you looked at all the deals that you did within this time frame and said, man, the easiest and most profitable and or with the least amount of resources spent were these JV deals. What if I just double down on that? Yep. And the reason why that's so dope to me, and I wanna hone in on that really quick, is because, guys, resourcefulness will beat resources every time. If you're somebody who's coming into the game and you have $50,000 and I might be broke, right? You still probably won't make more money than me if we both started in earnest at the same time. If you have $50,000, think about what I'm saying, y'all. If you have $50,000 to invest in your business and I'm broke, right? And we're starting in earnest, right? If all you have is resources and I have resourcefulness, I'm going to dominate. And the reason why is because resourcefulness, well, when you realize that how many resources you have available to you, you have more resourcefulness. You have more resources than if you just only had resources, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Chris, what you were able to do is you did something that very savvy business owners do. And they say, let me look at my ideal client avatar. Who is the person that I spend the least money on, is easiest and most enjoyable for me to work with? And then I'm only going to look for that ideal client avatar and see what that does to my business. And lo and behold, your $700,000 in gross revenues produced in about a year. You know what I mean? Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. And really, I know you said, the JV dispo part is easy, and it is simpler and less headaches than acquisition. I won't stay away from that. But it still takes the right personality, right? Because I know guys and girls who try to help, and then they either come to me or they just, make off comments like, oh, I can't believe this person is asking me that, or I can't believe they haven't figured that out yet. Totally fine if that's your temperament and your personality. But if you're going to do the JV model, you truly have to have a go-giver, spirit about you. I instead of direct to seller, I'm direct to wholesaler. I'm still uncovering motivation and pain and gaps, that they need to fill. And it's not just, reviewing numbers and saying, hey, I can take it. You got to understand their business model. You got to understand their, the dynamic in their life, why they might be pushing these like skinny deals. Maybe they just need to pay rent. And maybe you can get a 3K assignment and help them keep their business model going and put a little bit back into marketing. So it is easier, but there's still stress. There's still, personality dynamics that you have to handle. And it's a lot of helping. It's a lot of give until something returns, which is totally fine. And I love doing that. But there is some nuance to it.
Yeah, I love that you're being so real because I think someone might hear $700,000 in gross assignment fees in a year, and they're going to be like, I'm sold. And it's like, no, there is a law of compensation, right? Like in the world of capitalism, you got to give a whole lot to be able to profess ththese types of numbers. And there's going to be a sacrifice somewhere along the chain. So let's talk about this. I know that by the way, I just, and this not to glaze or to overly praise you, but my hat's off to you. And I really have always appreciated you, but then also looked up to you in a certain way, in the sense of like admired about you that you are so skilled at dispo. Like I know that we've done certain deals that you got sold, and I'm always like, oh, how the heck did he do that, bro? Like he is so good at this. And so I guess a large part of it is the fact that I've always taken a back seat to dispo. I've always outsourced it, either internally or externally. I've always outsourced dispo, even on my biggest years where we've cleared multiple 6 figures, 7 figures. I outsourced dispo and or had somebody who was doing it full time. So I've never been a self-proclaimed skilled disposition person. So I just want to start with that. But let's talk about some of these dynamics, because I've talked to individuals that in the community, Chris, that I've recommended that, you have a little bit of a bootstrap budget. You're not very skilled at acquisitions. And so I don't know if cold calling will be the best model for you. You seem to be a little gregarious. Why don't you try the direct to wholesaler model and focus on JVing and then connect them with rich homies?
Yeah.
And then I'll give them metrics for them to go about doing it. 2 accountability calls later, they're like, I can't do this, man. And I'm like, why? And they're like, bro, these deals that I'm getting from these wholesalers they're only sending me the garbage deals that they can't sell themselves. The half of the deals that I'm looking at are nowhere near a deal. And some of these wholesalers just have really trash personalities. They're like, bro, I can't do it. And I've had that more than one time. So talk to me about some of the challenges with working this model and how you've overcome them along the way.
Yeah, some of the challenges are just social proof, right? If you're trying to earn someone's business and you don't know who they are, they're not going to know that you're proven. That there's so many people that, someone makes a post and then everybody, hey, I have buyers. Hey, send it to me. I have a buyer. There's 12 different people that comment on that. So my first recommendation is I wouldn't be fishing for deals off Facebook. It's just too hard to prove who you are. 2, you need to show what you're doing. I have people that come to me as well and say, hey, I really want to do dispo, or I really want to do this. And I go to their profile, 0 posts. Like, bro, if you come to me and you say, hey, I have a buyer for that, and I go look at your profile and I just have no social proof of even seeing you or knowing who you are, you're not going to get my business. So social proof is huge, and credibility. Dang. For me, I would not recommend, I wouldn't recommend for someone brand new to go and try to do dispo. And I had people to come to me and say, hey, I don't have time for acquisitions. I haven't done a deal yet. How can I do dispo? Dispo is about knowing how to evaluate a deal and how to put it in front of the right people. So if you are brand new, or if you do want to do dispo, you need to become supremely confident and great at looking at a deal and identifying what a good deal is, understanding where your buyers want to profit, how they're going to profit, what their exit strategy is. Because if you are a newbie wholesaler, you're just going to miss the mark on evaluating deals. So if you are new, and I tell this to some wholesalers I work with, you can be a bird dog for me or other dispo people. You can go tee up those conversations. You don't got to lie and, try to, put yourself on a pedestal. Hey, I work with Chris. He's got 20,000 buyers in San Antonio. We've sold 13, in the last quarter. Well, now you've got some proof, and you can leverage me or whoever it is you're working with. But just be honest, tell them where you're at. Get the details that you need, send them over to Chris or whoever it is you're working with, and then make a bird dog fee. Get $500 on each deal, stack them up. I mean, truly, if I were starting and being a bird dog, you could clear $2-3K easy. by just going out, being active, getting on buyers list, reviewing those deals, seeing, hey, there's a spread there. Let me send it to, whoever it is I'm working with. But that's what I would do. So yeah, it's hard to jump into dispo without any social proof. So you have to brand yourself, right? We talked about that 2 years ago when I made the decision to go all dispo. That's my brand now. I'm the dispo guy. I'm not, even though I love acquisitions, we're not talking about acquisitions like I used to. It's dispo is how to review a deal, how to get a deal out in front of the right people, how to leverage those conversations, how to add tension, and then ultimately how to assign a deal and make sure you get it to the closing table.
Yeah. So let's break some of these down. So you said if somebody wants to be the JV Connect, number one is social proof. So if you want to be a dispo house, guys, and again, dispo house, for those of you that are just tuning in, is somebody who you're coming in and you're like, I'm not going direct to seller. So you're going to be direct to wholesaler and then connect the wholesaler's deals with your buyer's database. If you're going to do that, social proof is key. And I love what you said. If I'm a wholesaler and you're telling me that you can get a deal moved pretty quickly, you better be really convincing. If I go to your page and I don't see any posts about real estate or checks closed or, you doing anything in regards to real estate. So, and that's why whenever we go, like, if you guys know Chris Crump, that all he posts about, if it's not his daughters, it's like, it's a deal that's being moved. It's ninja tips along the way. It's checks. It's updates about year to date, gross revenues that have been closed and produced. And so you have the social proof, which is why you're able to build the database. Yep. The next thing that you mentioned.
Let me back up real quick, because you can't do this as a newbie. But the way that I would say you can do it as a newbie is you got to go to real estate events. There's plenty of great buyers that you can meet at real estate events and just become an order taker. There's nothing wrong with that. Figure out what the buyers want. Okay, hey, he'll buy anything from 1970 to 2000 with a $30,000 profit. Now you know what you're looking for. Okay, so you got your orders. Go and figure out who has that, and then you match it. It's super simple. You just got to put in the work. It's a lot of looking at deals. It's a lot of talking to people. So the game plan is easy. It's just who's going to stay in the game.
Chris, how many buyers do you have in your buyers database?
I've got 90,000, but you don't have to have 90,000. You can just have a few. You can have a dozen, so long as they're actively buying and you know what they're looking like, or looking at. For me, I just want to be on the biggest mountain and scream as loud as I can. That's the way I like to market. I want the whole world to know about our deal so I can get as many offers in. But you could have 12 buyers. It could be that simple.
I love it. So the first takeaway: have social proof. Don't be somebody who is claiming to be, something that they're not. Have social proof, right? That is a key to being an expert in the dispo housing niche. But then I love what you said too. Be an expert at valuating properties, because you could be telling people that they don't have a deal when in fact they do, or the opposite. Maybe you're telling people that that they have a deal and they don't.
Yeah.
And that can be equally as frustrating, especially if you're trying to shop a deal and then the time expires and then they end up losing a deal or looking goofy in front of their seller when you should have told them that they need to go back and rehash the price.
Yeah.
And so how does one become an expert underwriter at valuing properties, Chris? How would you say, how would you give, what instruction would you give to somebody who's just getting started who needs to learn their numbers?
Yeah, it's just time in the game. There's a lot of really good people that put out content. Jamil does, RJ Bates and Cassie do. You need to watch these videos, and then you also need to get in every Facebook group you can and just look at all the deals I posted. Okay, hey, they said a $300,000 ARV. This is the condition. These are the photos. Let me see where I land on ARV, and just compare. They might be right, they might be wrong, but you just need repetition. When wholesalers are posting their deals, drop your email on every one of those comments. You want to get on a bunch of buyers list. Every morning you wake up to 20 new deals and review them. And if you're brave enough, reach out to those wholesalers. Hey, I'm just another wholesaler trying to study. This is what I got in ARV. What comps are you using to be at 325? There's a lot of great people, a lot of go-givers in the industry. You can find some people that are going to help you, but you need to study your market, right? So see where people are selling at. If they're closing and funding, try to figure out, what the price was, go back and figure out who that was. But it's just a bunch of repetition. There's no way that you're going to be a month in and be able to identify a deal. I've got I've got guys who have been in, DFW for a decade. I can tell them the street zip code. They know exactly where they want to be at on numbers. It's just time in the game. So if you're new, lean on people, but it's just studying. It's just looking at, 20 deals, 25 deals a day, running your numbers and seeing where you're at with it. You keep doing that, you're gonna hone in on it.
Yeah, I love that. So essentially, be obsessed with mastery, guys. There's no way you're going to be successful as a wholesaler, no matter what department you're an expert in, whether it's acquisition or disposition. There's no way you're starting this business as a wholesaler and you're going to master it and not know your numbers, right? So I know that some of you might be rolling your eyes whenever Chris is giving you the instruction, like, oh, is it that simple? Or do I have to do that? The answer is yes. If you want to be successful at the level that he is, right, then you have to be an expert and be obsessed with these things. Let's dig a little bit deeper, man, because, 700,000, I did not know that's what you've generated in gross revenues through your assignments. Chris, that is so impressive, bro. Let's actually put that into perspective. What that looks like is 700,000 divided by 12 is $58,000 of equities produced in the name of capitalism through assignment fees in this year, right? That's absolutely insane. So I want to talk about this, man. What are some of the challenges in this business model that you have to face? Because some people might immediately look at it and say $0 ad spend. Man, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, some of the challenge. So yeah, I do spend $0 in ad spend. I don't spend any money on marketing or being in front of anybody. The only way that I do that is I host monthly events. That's free. It's a mastermind. We get 60 to 80 people there every month. I do a lot on social media. When I close and fund on something, I tell people about it. I tag my partners. I give them the social proof. I'm not just doing this with nobody. And then a lot of word of mouth. But really for me, it's been kind of a marathon mindset from the beginning, right? Knowing that I want to do this for the long haul. And then the second thing is a lot of people get caught up on it being a sales and marketing business or a transactional business. It's a people business, plain and simple. So simple. And so when people are in the dispo specific seat, some of the struggles I see with them is like, they don't care about the wholesaler. They certainly don't care about the seller that's on the front end of it. They don't care about the buyer. They're just looking for the profits. And they're just blinded by that. When you're in the dispo specifically seat, you need to know that your acquisitions made a promise to the seller with their name on it on a legally binding contract. There's timelines, there's money involved, there's a seller's life involved. And then for your buyer's taking the most risk. It's okay for you to make money, but you need to understand your buyer's taking the most risk. And if your buyer goes out of business, you just lost a buyer. I want my buyers to profit so they come back and buy 2 more deals from you, not get out of the business. So that's the biggest thing that I think it's a mindset thing for people in the dispo seat, that they either need to adapt to that or they're not going to last long. But the biggest struggles are you're playing a game of telephone, right? Someone puts a deal under contract, then they bring it to me. And so then I have to ask them, and then they ask the seller. So there are things that get lost in communication or not communicated that I wish, were. That's one of the biggest things. The other one is newer wholesalers, whether it's just because they're trained wrong or they heard something different, or newer wholesalers, some of the times they don't, give their seller the whole story. So the seller thinks they're the buyer. The seller thinks, hey, this guy offered me $100K on the phone as is. He's not going to have to come buy the property. I'm just going to wait. In 2 weeks, I get my check. They never set up the expectations that, hey, I'm a wholesaler. You don't have to say that word, but hey, it's my job to make sure I create a winning solution for you. And then I've got capital partners that are going to pay for this, but they're going to want to probably come and see it next week. It's as simple as that. You told them what you're going to do. But when wholesalers bring me deals where they didn't do that, you're making my job so much harder, because now you started off on a lie. You told them, hey, I'm the cash buyer. We're good to go. I've got the money. And now you're going to send contractors through who I'm at most of these showings. These people aren't looking like contractors. They're showing up in Teslas and Polos. They're not nice people. They're not over there bringing their hammers and hard hats. So please just be honest and transparent with your sellers, and you're going to make it so much easier on the dispo. But I think it's that communication that you really have to hone in on and make sure your acquisition partner knows how important it is for you to have that information and for it to be accurate. And then it's just a lot of hand-holding. It's a lot of hand-holding, more than you'd probably do in acquisitions, because you're holding the buyer's hand, you're holding title's hand, you're holding your acquisition partner's hand, and you're asking your acquisition partner to hold your seller's hand. And so it's a lot of hand-holding, a lot of clear communication that you need to make sure everybody's on the same page, and then just try to bring everybody to the finish line.
By the way, guys, what you're hearing Chris break down in regards to things to keep in mind as a disposition house or a business model that's focusing primarily on connecting wholesalers with buyers. Keep in mind these same principles apply to if you're a disposition agent or you have a disposition manager internally who's fulfilling the deal, connecting the deal with a buyer internally. It's the same principles that you have to keep in mind in terms of, I love what you said, caring about people, right? There's a seller or there's a wholesaler who put his name on the line here. So you gotta keep that dynamic in mind, right? Then there's a seller who trusted that person's word, whose livelihood is on the line because they're expecting to get X amount for the sale of their property. There's a buyer who is putting up risk to keep his business afloat on the line, all while balancing your reputation with all these people and clearing title. You are the Mecca, right? Yeah, like you're the Mecca. You are where all of the even transaction coordination, all of the different wholesaling departments will meet with Dispo whenever it comes to so hats off to you for being able to do this at an expert level. So let's talk about this a little bit further, bro. So how do you encourage or how would you instruct new wholesalers who are afraid to tell the buyer they're a wholesaler for fear that the person will immediately become turned off by the taboo of the word wholesaling? Well, how do you instruct them to go about that?
So the buyer or the seller?
The seller. I'm sorry. The seller.
I would do it just that way. I would say, hey, Mr. Seller, I would just tell them you're rolling it. Hey, Mr. Seller, my role in this is to make sure that I meet your needs. And then I'm on the back end, I'm going to bring in some capital partners to fund this. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, the monopoly man. I can't buy every property on the block, but I do have capital partners with cash ready to deploy. So all we need to do is make sure that I meet your needs. And then on the back end, I've got my capital partners ready to go. Again, they're probably going to want to stop by next week. They just like to see where their money's going to go. It's going to take about an hour. We'll be in and out. We won't bother you too much. It's that simple. You laid it out perfectly.
Yeah, I love that. And so, guys, this is so crucial because whether it's you're outsourcing to Chris to sell your deal or you're outsourcing to somebody else on your team who's the disposition manager, you remove so much of the unnecessary turbulence in a deal by setting the expectation that A, you're going to need access, confirm what type of access is needed, and that you are the person locking up the deal for the purpose of somebody else who has the capital to fund it.
Yeah.
Literally just yesterday, I was on the phone with the seller, Chris, and even to this day, I let them know I am not purchasing this real estate with my own money. I am utilizing a funding partner who's coming through. They fund the entire transactions, and they're the ones who determine what happens with this property. Right. Yeah. And then when she was like, I looked you up on social media and you seem to be a very enterprising young man. And surely you got the money to do it. And what I told her was, well, even Donald Trump utilizes other people's money to fund all of his transactions. Never has he ever used his own money. And he's Donald Trump. Right. And so, guys, just something that you can leverage to make yourself seem credible and authoritative enough to be the person that's doing the order taking, right? You can still do that and have the authority to be able to contract these deals and be open and honest with them.
Yeah, and even if she did call you out on that, there's several ways you can go. I'm not a big risk taker. I don't like putting my money up. I got friends who take bigger risks than me. They're going to be the ones that do that. I keep my money. I don't like do that.
I love that.
Sellers would understand that.
100%. Okay, so give us some tips on how, because we're winding down on time, and I knew that this was going to happen, man. I get so caught up talking to you, And I wanted to get into some more self-development type stuff because you're somebody that I know shares that same desire as I do to grow. And that's why your business is growing. But really quick, give us one nugget on how to build a buyer's database. If I could hold your feet to the fire to give away something right now that would essentially make it so that people didn't need you, what would that be, Chris?
Super easy. I'll give you 2. Go to a networking event, meet 5 buyers, name, number, email, what their buy box is, get 5. Okay, now you got 5 buyers. Now find somebody else at that event or another wholesaler you know, call them, text them, hey, I have 5 buyers. Do you have 5 buyers you want to send to me? Make a swap. Now you got 10 buyers. Now go find somebody else with 10 buyers. Make a swap. Now you have 20. 20 is enough to get a couple offers in. You keep doing that, you grow to 1,000 within a week.
Holy!
Now, the thing is vet those people, right? You don't want to get a list of agents or New Western people or anything else. But if they're moving deals, if they're getting responses and offers, that's good enough for me. I want offers. So yeah, go and double and triple and keep stacking.
So cool, bro. So cool. I love it, guys. He just gave you a couple years worth of experience in a few minutes in one little bar he gave you guys. And by the way, the database hack that Chris is talking about right now, I utilize this to build my buyers database to tens of thousands of buyers that bought many of our deals. Also, one sidebar to that. You know what's funny, Chris? When I was like very, very active in my wholesaling business, we're slanging more deals than ever. You know what I found? After looking at our average, deals per year, that we had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus thousand buyers in our database, but we only sold to like an average of like 12 to 15.
Yeah.
Do you find something similar to that in your
Well, I don't know if it was right or wrong, but I was taught from the beginning from my mentor is buyers are fickle. Like some people really focus on buyer relationships, others don't. For me, I just want to blast it out to the whole world. I do give favoritism to repeat buyers, but I want to talk to everybody in the whole world. So for me, I kind of grew up on that. Buyers are fickle. They're going to buy 1 or 2 deals from you a year. You might not even know why they bought it. They might have bought it at 81% ARV because their grandma lives down the street. You just don't know.
Yeah.
So buyers are fickle. And for me, I don't, I want my buyers to profit, but I don't spend as much time as I do with my wholesale partners as my buyers. I'm just going to run the numbers, make sure that I understand where the profit and exits are, put it in front of people, and then have those conversations. But most of these folks are doing it with a 9-to-5 or, they're just doing it for an extra 20, 30K, and they're not doing it to build an empire. So understand that is like your buyers are going to be different on a bunch of these deals. And yeah, we do have some buyers that stick around in volume and they own construction companies and can, do more volume. But for the most part, we truly are selling to mom and pop investors that are going to do a couple flips a year and just add a little bit more to their wallet.
Yeah. So good to know. Okay, real quick before I ask you the self-development question, give me your top 3 avatars of highest paying buyers that you know in your experience.
They own a construction company. That's for sure. Number 1. Folks in the Hispanic demographic, they pay a lot just because they've got their own crews. And then, newer investors are more eager to get a deal. So they do pay. They do sometimes pay maybe more than they should, but I'm not telling anybody how they should spend their money. They make an offer. I don't bend anybody's arms or twist anybody's, they make their own offer. So yeah, I would say volume buyers who have construction companies, Hispanic buyers who, they've got their own crews as well. And then some newer investors who are a little bit more eager to jump into the market.
Bro, I don't even think you know how much sauce you just gave right now, bro. I have never heard those 3 buyer demographics broken down so nuanced and so specifically and explicitly. Yeah. That is dope. Tayani, I hope you are listening to this right now because that is such a fire breakdown of the highest paying buyers on the market. And it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And it's like, for instance, if you get the guys who own their construction company, they run their numbers like that. They don't need to, call a subcontractor and go and find a plumber. which, some of the new investors have to do, but the guys that own the construction company, they got a sharp shooter. They see something, they know exactly how much it's going to cost and, how much profit they want to make. And those are the guys that you want to keep in your back pocket. Don't send them trash deals, send them the good deals. And, they'll make your life really easy.
Hey, and sometimes they be taking deals with smaller margin just to keep their people busy.
Yeah,
right. So they'll sometimes do a break even or a little bit above a break even just to keep the crew busy during slow seasons.
Because if not, they might lose them. These guys aren't, married to these buyers. If you don't have work for 2 months, they got families to feed. Another investor is going to swipe them up and say, "Hey, they do great work. I'm going to keep them busy." So that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, Alex Inman said them Spanish boys be driving racks. That's facts. That's facts. Okay, so Chris, this is more of a conversation me and you would have if we were on a call together and we're just chopping it up as boys. Share with me a book, a self-development book, or an audio, or maybe it's a video that has had a tremendous impact on your personality and your personal development in your career as a wholesaler and real estate professional.
Charles Stanback recommended, and it's been recommended forever, but Charles Stanback he actually bought the book for me and mailed it to me, The Go-Giver, which credit to Pace Morby. He had already instilled that, into his community and to me to be a go-giver. But that book is just so good. And it's that, and then Alex Hormozi, and you said it to me too, but Alex Hormozi has just been like, give away, free value, give them everything for free. And that's what I do in the dispo is like, I'm comping and telling people where they should sell it at. I'm telling them how to look at the numbers. Just give, bro, give everything. And then people are going to think about you. And so that's the model that I follow. Yesterday, I did a bunch of phone calls. I made 4 connections that I'm probably, in that immediate deal, not going to benefit on, but these guys are going to think about me. And if those connections turned into a fruitful partnership, Chris is the one that started that. And so that's just, again, emotional currency and karma that we're putting out there, and, some of it returns.
But Chris, I am broke right now. I need money right now. And you're telling me if I want to make more money that I need to give? I have nothing to give, bro. I just need to make money. But when I make money, I'll start giving. What do you say to that mindset?
It's a terrible mindset. And you got something to give. You got to figure it out. You either got time, you've got knowledge, you got a relationship that you can introduce to somebody. Everybody has something. So one, I would fix your mindset, like figure out you're a valuable person. No matter who you are, if you have a heartbeat, you're a valuable person. Go and find your value. I know sometimes that's hard. Read some books. There's some really good books out there. Read the 4 Agreements. I just read that one.
Powerful.
Understand your value, and then just plug in. Like I've been there. You do got to make some money quick. So go do the bird dog thing. Mm-hmm. There's real estate events that happen every week. Go find some buyers and then go make a post. Hey, I've got 3 buyers that are looking for this. You're going to get some comments. There's some people that have some deals out there. So it's super simple. You just gotta get after it. You've been with me, Aaron. You've been my accountability coach for forever. You've been with me when I wasn't making money, and you got to get busy.
Yep. 100%. If I could tell the story really quick, because you just like sparked a core memory. And I remember we were on an accountability call, and I remember the conversation where you're like, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is where I'm at financially. I'm in a little bit of a tight spot. Where do we go from here? What can we do for marketing channels? And I remember we kind of game planned a little bit. You set your heart on what you were gonna do. And I remember, by the way, shout out my brother Charles Stanback, because Charles was actually here. Shout out Charles Stanback. But for over a year, we did accountability call as an inner circle with Chris Crump, me, and Charles Stanback. And I kid you not, guys, within like 90 days of this conversation of Chris was back-to-back on accountability calls, and it was tough, bro. Like, it was like, man, Chris, I'm just hoping that my brother's going to make it.
Yeah.
And within 90 days, we start to see Chris's business literally go like this in front of our eyes. And I know it probably didn't feel like that to you, Chris, because you were in the thick of it. You're in the grind. You know what I mean? But for us, like me and Charles would look at each other and be like, yo, is it just me, or should I be hyping my brother up right now? And so I think that you are a living testimony of that philosophy that you're sharing, of being a go-giver, determining what your value is, and then getting after it as relentlessly as humanly possible. In a relatively short amount of time, you can see your situation change, even though there's ups and downs in business. So with that said, what final advice as we close out, Chris, would you give to, by the way, shout out to the fact that we've had over about 100 people live across all platforms. Really, really exciting to see that. Shout out to everybody who's here. So yeah, Chris, what advice would you give to newer, intermediate, and or just struggling entrepreneurs right now who are in real estate, who just need a word of wisdom and a little bit of a pick-me-up? What advice would you give as we close out?
Yeah, I would say, number one, the biggest thing is you have to look at yourself and make sure you're being consistent. Because a lot of the times I struggled, it was because of my own actions. So if you're not working every day, that's probably the reason why you're not finding success. So consistency over the long run, you're going to win every time. The second thing is, don't be afraid to pivot. Stick in it long enough where you know it's not working and why it's not working. Maybe it's just not for you, and you can pivot. Totally fine. And then the third thing I would say, and I tell this to every new wholesaler, is you need to find a community. Doesn't have to be a paid community, but it's so important for a new wholesaler. You've already made the leap. You say you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be in the real estate space. Okay, now you need a community, right? Because your friends are probably doing the traditional 9-to-5 stuff. They don't understand you. Maybe your spouse doesn't understand the work that you're doing. You need people who are at your level, so you can complain a little bit and tell them your struggles. And you need people a few levels above you to solve those issues for you. Without a community, it's almost hopeless. Yeah. And again, these can be free communities. I run a local free community in DFW. There's a lot of free meetups that you can go to. You don't have to pay. Do a couple deals before you go and pay for, community, if that's what you can afford. But community is so important. You don't want to do entrepreneurship alone. It's a lonely and stressful thing. You do not want to do it alone. And to your point on the accountability calls, yeah, I was making no money, but I see you making money. I see Charles making money. I know it's possible. So even though, there's very, very, it's a dark room I'm sitting in, there's still the light. There's still the light at the door that I can see. If I can just crack that door open, Charles and Aaron are there making money. So that's all it is, bro. You just have someone that can show you the way. And if you do, you stick to it and stay consistent, you're going to win.
I love it, bro. I could not have worded what you said any differently. I love it. I love it. Don't be afraid to pivot, but there's the balance between staying consistent and pivot whenever it's necessary. And be a go-giver, find your value, and find a community. Find a community. If you can't find a community that resonates with you, create your own. And you can have 3-4 people you meet on Zoom with every single morning and hold each other accountable. But I love that so much. Find a community. All right. And then one more for you, bro. We are way over on time, but I've just been having way too much of a blast. But we do got to get off this call to honor everybody's time. Alex Inman says, what areas you dispo in, Chris? I could send you some deals.
Alex, I did nationwide, but I couldn't serve at a high level. So I pivoted back to Texas. Speaking of pivoting, I'm back to Texas. All the Texas metros, I've got tens of thousands of buyers in. West Texas gets a little tough. South Texas gets a little tough. But anywhere DFW, Houston, or San Antonio within about 2 hours, we can get eyeballs on it. We can get offers on it for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then last thing, Chris, how can people get a hold of you? Because, just how can people get a hold of you?
I'm the easiest person to get a hold of. My number is out everywhere. My email's out everywhere. My number is 945-213-0915. That is my cell phone. You can call it
0915?
0915. Yes, sir. And then I'll say go ahead.
What I'm going to do is I'm literally going to put your phone number right here. Guys, I'm going to bring Chris's phone number up right now. He's the one who asked for it. So I don't want anybody giving me any hate messages that I shouldn't have done this. He's the one who gave me permission. That is Chris's phone number. You should screenshot this right now. If I was a new wholesaler, I would screenshot this right now, save this number, and literally, you know what I would do? I would hit up Chris and be like, hey, what can I do to provide value for you? I want to learn a little bit about this. and Chris's answer is probably going to be, go find me a deal, right? But I would reach out and I would connect with him. And if you are one of the 2 or 3 or 4, 5,000 people that are going to see this episode over the next 8 to 10 days, and you're new and you don't take the opportunity to screenshot this number that's on the screen right now as a hack, as an opportunity sent to you from above, I got nothing else for you, man. Like, I don't know how to make it any easier, but then to put the individual's phone number who's over here giving you value on the screen. And so connect with Chris. Also, what's your IG handle? Because I know that there's people who are going to want to follow you, Chris.
It's Crump Moves Homes. CRUMP Moves Homes.
All right. Go follow Crump Moves Homes. And I'm going to tell you why to go follow Chris, y'all. Go follow Chris because I'm telling you right now, he doesn't just put corny content on social media. It's actually really, really valuable nuggets and well thought out tips that he puts out there. You know what's crazy about Chris? He really follows this go-giver mentality to the point where if you really listen to what Chris is giving out there, he makes it so that you don't need him. Mm-hmm. He's actually making it so that you don't need his service, which is crazy. And some people might be like, that's financial suicide. But what Chris understands is he gives so much real value that you want his business. You want to work with him. And he just makes it so easy to work with him. So if you need help moving a deal or if you just want good content to take your business to the next level, go follow Chris Crump. And I promise you, it is going to help you in ways that you might not have imagined. So Chris, thank you for coming on and serving. This is probably my favorite episode we've ever done together. You really came with the bars, and I really appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Like I always say, I owe a lot of my success to you. You've been my coach for a number of years, and you've helped me through the highs and the lows. So you deserve your flowers. I appreciate you.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. With that said, guys, if you're not home yet, drive safe because people be driving crazy out here. Once you get home, love on your loved ones because tomorrow's not promised. Make sure to brush your teeth, and for goodness sakes, don't slap nobody. Till next time, let's get it. Deuces.
We made it, that's facts, ayy. We the greatest, that's facts, ayy. Prices raising, that's facts, ayy. That's right. But we paid it, that's facts, ayy. I did. They hate it, that's facts, ayy. Cause we changing, that's facts, ayy. We did. Can't blame them, that's facts, ayy. Cause we made it, that's facts, ayy. Cherry on top, that's a goat, yeah. Where you been, I wanna know, yeah. Greatest story ever told, yeah. Greatest story ever told, yeah. I know you wanna look up for this. Baby, let me turn you up a bit. You said you made it through hell and back. Give me the scoop, baby, tell the